What it do, y'all? It's your boy D Sly coming to you with the week 4 reflection of the Sagnasty If Anybody Asked Me podcast. Time is really flying. I can't believe it's already been a week and I'm already back here with the new reflection. I kind of wasn't ready for it, to be honest, but the pulse, the pulse is rising. There's still life in the body. I can really see a lot of magical things happening behind the scenes. Relationships are being repaired, reestablished. A lot of people who actually directly deal with the podcast find it therapeutic. There's always that great nostalgic feeling of nostalgia that we all like, that I definitely like. I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, those are positives, that's for sure. And in this crazy world right now, it's nothing better than some good positive energy. I think because of the first few brave people to volunteer, we kind of have like a new wave of volunteers that feel inspired to share their stories and add to the mural, add their story to the mural, to the big picture that we're trying to create here with this podcast. So thank you so much for everyone who's volunteered and the people who continue to follow along. I'm not a professional, but you know what? I'm doing the best that I can, and I thank you guys for your grace. One thing I really want to reflect on this week 4 is the unasked questions. The questions unasked. There's sometimes when people say things during the interviews, during the conversations, that I try to cut them off a little bit. I don't want them to say too much or to incriminate them. So that sometimes I'm strategically not asking certain questions. Like Taria said she had a felony, and yeah, I wanted to know what the felony was because I've dealt with the law too, but I didn't want her to say it on record just in case. Who knows, there were times when I wanted to ask more intimate details with Mercy, and I decided to step back from that because she was sharing well already as is. Why should I ask for more? Why should I demand more? With Brad, there was a lot of unasked questions. Some were technical that I avoided asking because maybe people would find it a little boring. But other ones were just because I was too excited and time flew by. I found myself kind of wishing that I would let him expand more on certain things. Like, for example, when he talked about Charlottesville, I know there was more that he wanted to share there, but to be honest, I was kind of scared to go into that territory a little bit, for a lot of reasons. Lots of reasons, to be honest. Some because of him and some because of myself, that maybe I didn't trust myself to have that conversation, perhaps. For example, he said that during that conversation that he remembers students at a predominantly black school criticizing the way that I speak. But I don't have a memory of that ever. I don't ever remember any black people ever criticizing the way that I speak. I never really remember being criticized for my blackness, only by white people. I've definitely heard, like, you talk like a white guy. And that's a white person usually saying that to me. And my response to them usually is, which white guy do you think I sound like? I would really like to see that, because I don't talk like a white person. I just don't talk like a stereotypical, what they find as stereotypically black. But at this age, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. But yeah, I always had love from all the predominantly black schools because I was giving that work, What can you say? I'm faster than you. I'm hooping better than you. I got a lot of love and respect from those people, and that's why I got friends at schools all over the place, white or black. But anyways, that's a little bit off topic. But there's a lot of questions that I would like to have asked throughout all of those situations. There's a lot of commentary that I had to leave out. One of the biggest themes that I'm seeing across the board is ridiculous, is that how our stories are dictated by the father. Everyone's relationship with their father dictates the trajectory of their life, which is crazy. I knew that in theory, but to see it like play out in everyone's story is really just mind-blowing. Whatever your disposition is with your father, it's going to have a huge impact on your life. And when it comes to the mother, it's funny, it's like, it seems like we don't ask much from her, or maybe she already gives us enough, or I don't know. The relationship with the mother is very interesting, and I would love to explore that more too. But again, some of those questions are a little too much. I like to keep it on the actual person talking. I don't want to disclose too much information about their family members and things like that. This is a public space, and I want it to be a safe space. So I don't want people to feel like I coerce them into saying too much or saying something like scandalous or inflammatory or anything like that. So some questions have to be left unasked, but that father thing is really crazy. And the next conversation that we're going to have, the next perspective, again, it goes back to the father, and it's so interesting how that plays out. And I actually have a whole project that I'm working on about fathers, but I wouldn't even mind a podcast simply on that. Who's your dad, and what was your disposition with your father, and how did that affect your life, the course of your life, the trajectory of your life? Shout out to my big bro, Briante. He was adopted, and I see in a huge way the way the father role, and he was raised by his I want to say great aunt. I know she was elderly. To me, she was like a grandma. I don't know how he really viewed her as. He definitely felt love there with his uncle and his aunt. I think that's what it is, but he felt love there a lot, but there was separation from the biological mother, and obviously, like when it comes to the father, I don't think that he knew his father at all, if I understand it correctly. But in Korea, I've met tons of orphans, because Korea has a long history of sending their kids off to different places around the world. It was actually kind of a scandal. They kind of had it was basically like human trafficking. The orphanages would seek out different families in America and across Europe, and a lot of those kids that were sent out for adoption come back to Korea and try to find their roots and even try to find their biological parents. And a lot of times when they do find their biological parents, they're super disappointed about it. One of our close friends, she found her biological mother, and she got in contact with her, and she was adopted like at 7, so she actually remembers her grandparents and her mother. She remembers being like shipped off with her brother, luckily with her brother, so she had family with her new family. But she came back to Korea from America. She was raised in America, and she went to meet her biological mother, and at the last second, her biological mother canceled the meeting and refused to ever see her. And so she came all the way to Korea and never got to see her mother. Her mother said that she had remarried, she had new kids, and her husband and her family didn't know about her past, didn't know that she had 2 kids before. So she didn't want to ruin her marriage and maybe traumatize her kids, or I don't know. And so she never met her mother, and that just destroyed her. It was already hard enough being adopted, and then to feel cast off like that, and then I don't know. The recording stopped for some reason. Anyways, yeah, it's getting long. I actually meant to keep this short, but yeah. As you know, I don't get any monetary compensation for this work, but I'm not getting any younger, and I really want to live my life with no regrets as much as possible. Who knows what my legacy will be, but no matter what, I want to finish life having completed a body of work, and included in that body of work is this podcast. I have 3 collections of poetry, I have 2 nonfiction books, and I have this podcast. I don't know what comes next, but I do want this to be part of my body of work because I can see what it's really doing. It falls in line with my philosophies and what I've learned throughout the years. It's part of my poetics, basically. So, thank you guys so much. You know, I don't promote these reflections. Only the most loyal to the podcast even get to hear this. So, shout out to you guys. I love you. As you know, we're all looking at the same thing. I repeat, we're all looking at the same thing. Anyways, if anybody asks me, Sagnasty.